Hi, today we're looking at photographing jays, and especially jays in flight. Now the photography is not going to take place today. I'm just starting up a project. It's a project I've done before where I've managed to photograph jays in flight, and I'm trying to repeat it. It's not going to happen today because this is the end of July running into August. It's my least favourite time of year. The birds are tatty, they're molting, most of them have finished breeding, and birds are skulking away. They don't come out and sing very much. It's a good time of year to be travelling, and normally I might be in South America or Southern Africa, but this is the year of the coronavirus 2020. I'm stuck at home, so I'm setting up a project that's going to go on into the winter. So here we have our post. It's an attractive looking post with a hinge on it. It has a natural hollow in the top, but that's been enhanced by a bit of drilling and a bit of chiseling, and then I can pour peanuts into that. To the side we have two trays, one on each side, again full of peanuts, and the idea is the jay is going to land on here and fly across to the tray and backwards and forwards, and I'll get flight shots in between. And you might ask the question, why not have three posts? That's because the two trays need to be flexible. I'm going to keep moving them. When the jay flies from here to here, it isn't really long enough, and he's not going to open his wings fully. So I'm going to have to keep moving the tray further away, and so it does open its wings to cover the distance. At the same time, I want to keep that distance as small as possible, so he's flying in a straight line. Makes it easier for me to get him in focus. So these two trays I will keep adjusting, moving them backwards and forwards as I experiment to get the right distance. Once the post is in the place, it's needs a hole. It's more difficult to put in place. These are flexible. I can move them easily. Notice where I am is wide open. There's no bushes close to the feeders. About 100 meters that way there's another wooden hide where I photograph the blue tits and great tits, long-tailed tits, redpolls, etc., the small birds. If I was to fill this post with peanuts during the winter, there would be 50 to 60 blue tits and great tits come down, and very quickly they would empty that of peanuts. Here, out in the open, where there's no security for those small birds, they're not so keen to come in here. So I'm going to get far less of the small birds, but hopefully this site is better for the larger birds. In fact, last winter we had buzzards on here and ravens, and there's usually green woodpeckers about, and I'll get great spotted as well. But it's really about the flight pictures of the larger birds. That's why we're using an open site. At this time of year the grass is very long and very white, and it will get whiter. So behind the post I will have to cut the grass down before the photography begins, which will be about September. There is a wooden hide up here because we've been photographing buzzards, and it is easier to do jays from a wooden hide. They can be nervous from a canvas hide. So I'll just show you some of the pictures that's happening at the moment. These are young looking birds and not in great shape. All this is filmed in slow motion with the Panasonic G9 and the 100 to 400 zoom, and this will be 180 frames per second. They're certainly performing well very early on. There's three birds coming in. They'll all be from the same nest. Lots of interaction, and it's looking promising. I'm only feeding the birds maybe 2-3 times a week. Haven't got the time to put into it at the moment, but it's an encouraging start. When you get to the photography proper, you start feeding them every day. It's very noticeable when you're shooting video that those white grasses behind it are not so much of a nuisance as they are with stills photography. You can even have out of focus vegetation in front of a bird, and with video it doesn't matter, and yet it would completely spoil a stills picture just because the bird is moving, I guess. And this next clip is the sort of picture that I will be trying to get as a stills photograph. If you just watch this bird coming in from the right here, and it's just as he opens his wings, just at that point. That's what I'll be trying to do as a stills picture. I'll show you a picture I took when I did this setup previously. This was in the year 2005 with a Canon EOS 1D Mark II. It was taken at 1/5000th of a second, 1600 ISO. In those days that was regarded as a very high ISO. It would have been very noisy and grainy, so the image has had Neat Image applied to it, which is a noise reduction program to remove the grain and the noise. The camera only took 5 frames per second as well. That's quite slow. Today I'll be using the Olympus Micro Four Thirds system. I've got Pro Capture and I'll have 60 frames per second, 60. It's a big difference. Hopefully it's going to make the picture much easier to retake. And a few other Jay pictures I've taken over the years. This would have been about September. The branch has been propped up between 2 pieces of angle iron, whereas this branch is very natural. And I should be able to take this picture this year as well, because the jays are perching in the trees to the side of the feeder. So you get a more sort of natural image rather than a bird on a stick look. This is a bird on a stick look. It doesn't quite look natural. It looks as if the photographer has placed it there, which he has. This is also a setup just at the bottom of one of the stumps we were photographing on. You see the yellow leaf in the background. Well, then you change it so you add a few more yellow leaves. When I'm working on a project like this, I want all sorts of pictures. You want the bird looking to the left, looking to the right, headshots, vertical shots, all sorts of pictures. Even shots in the rain. A few raindrops in that picture. Now, peanuts are okay for feeding the birds on the day you're not photographing them, but when you are taking pictures they are much better with acorns. So during the autumn months you go out and you collect some acorns, and the birds prefer peanuts. If there's peanuts or acorns in the tray, they will take the peanuts first. But they pose much better with an acorn. They can't swallow them so easy. They do have to lift their heads like this to be able to get the acorn down the throat into the crop. And it's amazing how many acorns they drop as well. It's much better when there's snow on the floor because it makes the birds hungry. They do tend to come in a lot when there's snow around. I think they drop more acorns than they actually eat. And when you collect your acorns, you must dry them out thoroughly, otherwise they just go mouldy. So you spread them out on a sheet of paper or cloth and leave them out in the sun and keep drying them. Do it for several days. And that's it. Thanks for watching.